It's an opportunity today to welcome some very key people from Tazewell County to This Week in Virginia. You'll see that they're wearing their mask, and I started with mine on, but I'm going to take it off. And okay. And I think even as I took it off, that's the challenge with taking mask off with earbuds and everything else kind of pops out. But let me introduce A.J. Robinson, who's the Director of Communications and Tourism, Tazewell County. And sitting to her right is Mike Hymes, the supervisor, and to her left is Charles Stacy, who's supervisor and chair of the Tazewell County Board of Supervisors. I think our viewers know, but I'll refresh their memories, that we have 95 counties in the Commonwealth of Virginia. They stretch from Lee County to Accomack, and up along the Cumberland Plateau is Tazewell County. And it's been a special county to me and my family over the years. But the reason for the show is not because it's special to me, but it's because of some unique things that have been happening in Tazewell County that I'm not sure has been happening in the other 94, at least not so far. And AJ, if you would start us off and take us back to March, which seems like a lifetime ago, and it is, I guess in pandemic time, it is a lifetime ago, when the first COVID-19 campaign started, and how you started that campaign with the desire to keep businesses open and keep tourism alive and keep the economy going in Tazewell County. What was the beginning part of your campaign? And then we're going to come to something I think is unique, the billboards. How did it start?
So when we first started getting our cases of COVID-19, they were relatively small cases. And we just decided, well, we want to be proactive and keep our residents safe. So we decided to start running radio ads, just reminding people to wash their hands and social distance. At that time, back in March, we weren't even wearing masks. Wasn't a CDC preference at that time. So we were just encouraging people to just kind of follow those basic guidelines that first started out to try to keep our residents safe. And we continued with that because our numbers remained relatively low until approximately July. We stayed probably about between 12 and 20 cases until July, and then that's when we started seeing them pick up. As our cases kind of picked up, we kind of moved on with the campaign.
I think part of your early campaign too, you were working with the Department of Health in testing and flu clinics and in marketing. And I was hearing something about that your marketing effort just helped the clinic get filled up even before it was opening.
So that was the COVID-19 testing. We did partner with the Cumberland Plateau Health District from Virginia Department of Health. What we were seeing in Southwest Virginia is that people were not coming out to test. We felt like it was because they didn't want to test positive, because if they tested positive, then they would have to quarantine. And a lot of that impacts a family's income if they weren't going to be able to work. So we put on a major marketing campaign for that COVID-19 testing, and we were pleased that before the testing opened that day, we already had lines of cars lining up, and we had reached maximum capacity. Even for the walk-in or drive-through, we reached maximum capacity before it opened.
Well, and then soon after that is when billboards started being in your plans. And I'm extremely curious, and I think our viewers will be curious about how did you come up with the idea of a billboard campaign and how has that developed? And I want to thank you because we have at least about 5 of those that we're going to be showing during the show. But how did that start?
So as the campaign kind of moved along and the mask became a part of protection for COVID-19 or prevention, I kind of started to see that it became political. My background is in politics, and the first time that I ever worked in politics, I was in the General Assembly as an intern. Not to show my age, but Al Smith, I interned from him, and I think that everybody back in that era remembers the Big Al, Little Al with Al Smith and Al Diamondstein. And
Right.
kind of, there was always that cooperation within politics. And I wasn't seeing that for what we needed for healthcare. And I also kind of felt that way because I worked on the staff for George Allen, and under Jay Timmons, I kind of worked under September 11th and gained a lot of skills there, and you kind of saw the community come together. Wasn't seeing that. So I kind of went back to those basic roots of what did I learn under that internship and also working in the United States Senate. And what I saw was that we need to get back to our grassroots, and we kind of needed to just go local. And that's where our campaign came up with the Mask Up campaign and just pulling locals in to that campaign to promote within our community for people to mask up. And we used people from different parties, people from different ethnic backgrounds to come together to promote this.
Now, Charlie and Mike, when you started hearing about this billboard campaign, what was your all's reactions and the reactions of the entire board of 5 members there in the county?
Well, Dave, I think one of the grim features of this whole COVID thing that is very unique to Tazewell County is when this crisis first developed, as New York was experiencing kind of the first wave of severe COVID-related impacts, we watched, as that was unfolding, and the reality for most of rural America was our healthcare systems in rural America could not withstand nor provide the level of care if your COVID cases numbers followed that path that we saw in New York. So from the Board of Supervisors standpoint, the only thing we could really effectively do in our minds to save lives of our people was to try to convince them how not to contract COVID so that we could maintain numbers in our healthcare facilities that were manageable. So, it really became probably the best line of defense we could do was to try to come up with ways to prevent our citizens from catching COVID to begin with. And that kind of just catapulted us into the mask campaign as one of the best factors we could do. But AJ, very early on, we also had a lot of public messaging for all of the CDC recommendations of hygiene, wash your hands, cough into your sleeve on your elbow. We were really early on trying to promote all of the basic CDC guidelines for prevention.
David, the board was wholeheartedly behind it. One of the things that is important about these billboards is we have to lead by example. If we don't wear a mask, how can we expect our county residents to wear a mask? I told folks that if we want our schools to reopen, we've got to manage this virus. And if we want our hospitals to be able to stay open and be able to manage the few people that get it, we've got to manage the virus. The best way to do that is to mask up. And one of the really interesting things, Tazewell County has 3 really good football teams. And one of the first billboards that AJ put up was the 3 coaches, one from Tazewell, one from Richlands, and one from Graham, on a billboard, all together saying, mask up. Mask up, it's important. They want to get back to playing ball, and so does everyone else in the county.
We're going to show the viewers the one of those 3 coaches and the other one too about your schools, that I like the really variety of people that you had from different walks of life who were in the one about keeping the schools open, and that was really key. And while I'm mentioning it, we have another one that our viewers will be seeing about from the Tazewell County Sheriff's Office, from law enforcement. So you really had some good, strong buy-in from community leaders who were part of those campaigns. Now, how did you get Lamar Advertising involved? Because I understand that they maybe were helpful in this process.
They were extremely helpful in this process. So I kind of came up with the idea of doing this campaign, but I only probably had funding to maybe do 2 or 3 billboards. So I actually looked over to see what was available. I sent an email with the locations saying, hey, I'm interested in these. I didn't even say that it was a Mask Up campaign. I just said, I'm interested in these. Do you mind giving me the pricing? I actually got a call back from Wes Myers, who is with Lamar Advertising. And he said, hey, I just want to check in to see what kind of billboards you're doing. And when I started talking to him about the Mask Up campaign and what I was trying to accomplish, he said, this sounds like something that our company would love to partner with. And then he came back with me with an offer of not 3 billboards, but 10 billboards. So
Wow.
That's why I was able to expand my campaign into having 10 billboards across the county. And we're actually working on our 11th right now.
And I think maybe, is that one going to feature some first responders, or is that the one in the make?
Yes, sir. So we're going to feature first responders on the 11th billboard.
Well, one of the other billboards, and it may be that you're one of the people featured in that billboard too, but it's tourism. And right behind you, where our viewers can see, that says Mountains of Adventure, Tazewell County. I mean, that was featuring tourism. That's I guess that was the first hat you were wearing for Tazewell County before taking over some communications. So tell us some about the tourism opportunities that are available in the county. And Charlie and Mike, you all join in with her.
So we have wonderful opportunities here in Tazewell County. We are the Mountains of Adventure. One of the things that we have is called the Back of the Dragon. That's Route 16. It is one of the most infamous motorcycle routes and car routes in the United States. And we have hundreds of thousands of people who come visit us for that route. We also see a lot of Canadians, which unfortunately has hurt us due to COVID-19 because of the Canadian border being closed. But that is actually one of our most popular demographics for the Back of the Dragon is Canada. We also have the original Pocahontas ATV trail. That's in obviously the Pocahontas area, another popular attraction that we have. We have Crab Orchard Museum. We have the Clinch River, one of the most biologically diverse rivers, only behind the Amazon is it. So people love to kayak there. We have the Sanders House. We just have, we actually have this beautiful new train station in Tazewell that was just renovated. That's opening up as a visitor center there in Tazewell that we're excited to see as well.
Wow. Charlie and Mike?
One of the things, David, that we were mindful of is that as people have been quarantining now for 8 months, that American desire to get out and socialize, people are looking and exploring what are their options to get out from their quarantine, but yet not being too risky. And we are finding that Tazewell County and other parts of rural America offers a great alternative to large capacity venues that people maybe traditionally went to. You can come and ride the Back of the Dragon in your own personal vehicle and get out and get the fresh air and see the scenery without making a tremendous risk of exposure. Same with the ATV trails and the kayaking. So we see that as an opportunity where not being such a highly populated tourism destination truly becomes your best asset. And again, it comes back to the Mask Up campaign, was as people are surveying where they may be willing to take a chance to go to get out, they're looking at the COVID numbers. And as our COVID numbers remain in the numbers they are and manageable, we think that will help us as folks are evaluating where is maybe the best place to go if you are determined to go out for a tourism related event.
David, as an owner of a tourism-related business, I have individual contact with people that come here. And one of the things that they always comment about is that they see these mask up billboards, they see people wearing masks, and they feel safe here. So if they feel safe, they'll tell all their friends they feel safe, and that will help us going into 2021, because we all know this virus is going to stay with us for a while. So we've got to be able to manage these numbers, keep our businesses open, keep our schools open, and keep making people that want to visit Tazewell County understand this is a safe place to come and enjoy yourself and get out of quarantine.
I can really speak personally about the Route 16 back of the Dragon. My dad was pastor of Tazewell Baptist Church back in the day, and I was there visiting, and I needed to get over the Marion Way in Abingdon, and he said, you know, there's a shortcut you could take, and that's the way he described it. When I went through over that road, I was so glad it was daylight, and when I got to the other side, I got to a phone and called him back, and he was laughing. He said, how was the ride on Route 16? Because it is a phenomenal, I mean, the scenery is great, but it's just a phenomenal road that ever how many miles it is, by the way, all this doubling back and all like that, there's more asphalt there than the number of miles you travel.
It's 32 miles, 438 curves, and it goes over 3 mountain ranges. And I also would be remiss if I didn't point out that the Back of the Dragon Welcome Center opened in the middle of COVID. It's a $2 million investment that we have in downtown Tazewell, and the Main Street in Tazewell was just recognized, and it joins as an official Main Street.
Oh, fantastic! That is. So I'm looking forward to getting to take in some of those scenes. And on this day in November, I could only wish I were there and see the beautiful foliage that's really all around you all. Well, back to the rest of the campaign now. You got rest of November. I know you did some exciting things on Halloween, but you've got the rest of November and December and January. I think you've got some plans going right on through January. So tell us about them.
So we've partnered with the Virginia Department of Emergency Management with their Health Equity Program, and we started out with Halloween. So we gave out nearly 1,000 trick-or-treat bags. They had candy, a COVID-19 coloring sheet, crayons. They had facial masks and full-size hand sanitizers. And we were able to pass those out at trunk-or-treats. We had reverse trunk-or-treats, where we actually went to deliver the trunk-or-treat items to them. And that was our start to kick off that campaign with the Virginia Department of Emergency Management. We're going to continue that with the Veterans Day programs to kind of look out for more of our elderly population. We're also doing it with Meals on Wheels. We're targeting as well certain districts in our county that we see maybe a higher case amount of COVID-19. So we're looking for activities there that we're going to hand out these packets. And then when college students return for the spring semester in January, we are partnering with our community college and Bluefield College, and we're going to hand packets out to them as a reminder when they come back that they play an important role in helping keep our community safe.
And I think one of those billboards has the mascots of those two athletic teams of the two colleges, and that's just another way that you've involved the community with those two colleges really coming from the east and the western parts of the county.
That's we're all one team. We're all one home team.
Yes.
One of the challenges, David, that I think we face is as you watch the CDC, guidelines and the recommendations as we approach the holiday season, we've done really good jobs of avoiding large crowds and large events, but the CDC is really starting to push down more guidelines, especially for rural places like Tazewell County, that your small gathering events are still a cause of the spread of this virus. And that's a little harder for us to manage because I think a lot of us in Southwest Virginia, Tazewell County, have still continued to have, our small family functions, and we've maintained more contacts maybe than other people have because we felt like those small gatherings were not problematic if you knew everybody in your group and none of them had been sick. But the guidelines are kind of telling us that in order to continue to combat the spread as it's increased in Tazewell County, we need to also curtail some of those. So that's going to require a huge effort on our part to try and convince people to either mask up if you are going to have those gatherings at Thanksgiving and Christmas, to continue to social distance, or perhaps to scale them down even smaller. So that's a challenge, and we know that that's going to be difficult for people. And I think Tazewell County's done a good job of just trying to find the right balance between living in the existence of a pandemic, but yet being as safe and taking as many precautions as you possibly can, just in hopes of continuing to keep the number of cases down as low as we possibly can.
Yeah,
David,
and
it's really important that these people in Tazewell County understand that we want them to have small family gatherings. We understand that during Thanksgiving, it's hunting season. Lots of family comes back and goes hunting. So yes, have your family gathering, but be smart about it and help us manage this pandemic so we can continue to keep doing what we're doing through the holidays. And, going into January is going to be tough. We've got to continue to manage the pandemic and do all those things that we need to do to keep ourselves safe.
And that'll be a important part of our campaign going into the holidays. It's just reminding people to continue to mask up, even when they're with family members that are from out of town. It's just an important part as we're gathering more inside to stay vigilant.
I know when we are gathering at our house and we think about Thanksgiving, we've been talking about we're going to have to keep these on even when we're with relatives. I mean, sometimes I tend to let down the guard if I'm with one of my daughters or someone, but they say, nah, they remind me, Dad, put your mask back on, because it really tries to help us all get through it. Now, the problem with some of us who wear glasses, if we wear them too long, they can fog up, but that's one of the problems. I remember back when we started first using seat belts, and there was a lot of pushback about seat belts. Now, seat belts now I think are generally acceptable, and probably 90-some% of the people, hopefully all 100% would use them. I don't envision us wearing masks for the rest of our lives, but gosh, if you're willing to wear a seat belt to protect yourself, wear a mask to protect your friends and your family, as well as protecting yourself. Before we end, there are economic development opportunities in the rural counties, in the mountain counties, and especially in Tazewell County. So let's close with some messages from our supervisors and our director of tourism about some of the opportunities of people to come to Tazewell County and enjoy the beauty, and then say it's a great place to do business also.
David, one of the things that we saw during the pandemic is this thing with shortages of meat products. Tazewell County produces a lot of beef, and it's shipped away from here to be processed. Well, as a county, we're seeking out the opportunity to try to find a area where we might get a meat processing facility in our area, so our local farmers can ship their meat locally, and our local stores and our local residents can have access, so we're not at the mercy of somebody in Kansas City.
I think one of the benefits that we are seeing start as the whole country watches and sees how COVID impacted their lifestyles, rural America is getting a second look from a lot of the city dwellers, that they realize our numbers were not as severe, our cases were more limited, our freedoms were not nearly as restricted, simply because we had much more space in which to function. So we have seen an increase in interest from people coming from the urban locations to at least take a look at some of the rural America sites. So we're excited to be able to showcase the things that are here, in hopes that there may be a mentality switch with some people who are originally were city dwellers, are now maybe willing to take a look at the rural country living, and with that bringing the businesses that they operate in those urban areas. So we want to make sure that the the carpet is rolled out, that we can demonstrate what's there. We've had a couple of projects that are just fortunately through timing coming to fruition now that at least give our people some hope that there is still economic development, even in the midst of a pandemic right here. So those have been some really positive things that we're trying to watch and see how this pandemic's going to unfold in that regard.
I want to give a shout out to your delegate Will Moorfield and his long-term effort to get something called Project Jonah to come to the county, and I think that there's probably some announcements that'll be coming up hopefully in 2020, if not in the early part of 21, about some economic development, and his work along with your Senator Chafin and others, and those of you on the local board of supervisors who work together across party lines for the good of the citizens of the county and for the good of the citizens of the Commonwealth. Well, I want to thank all three of you very much. And AJ, we'll let you have the final word if you got something else you want to say before we would end the show.
On an economic development level, I would just like to say that anybody that comes in and thinks about relocating their business to Tazewell County, we always think of you as a tourist and a visitor first, and I'm always happy to have you here, have you come look and take a peek at what we've got going on here in Tazewell County to see all the wonderful opportunities by relocating your business and seeing what your employees have to enjoy regarding our outdoor recreation. We're always looking for people to come in. I hope our Mask Up campaign shows potential people that are looking to invest here that we are doing everything that we can to support your business, not just in our grants, but also in our Mask Up campaign and helping to keep this region open and being a part of a positive impact on what's going on regarding COVID-19.
AJ, thank you, and Charlie, Stacy, Mike Hymes, Mask Up, and thank you all for all that you're doing.